Hey everyone, welcome to another Haze Reverb video. In this one we're going to talk about Tier 99 Moon Abyss. Now this is probably the most challenging content in the game, but it's also not necessary to complete for any particular reason, because you can still do Tier 80 Moon Abyss and you'll get the same rewards as doing Tier 99. So the only reason to do Tier 99 is if you want the challenge of completing the hardest content in the game, or maybe if you care about the leaderboards, then this is going to be the video for you. So I'm going to try to cover like my approach on how to do that, and basically just teaching you how to do it so that you can apply this for every Moon Abyss, because each rotation will change the floors and the enemies. So you can't just, there's no one guide that will apply to every single layout. But if you understand the theory behind how to approach them, then you'll be able to work it out yourself, right? So first off, the team lineup, you're basically going to use one support unit that is buffing attack and also healing, ideally. So I use Franca because she's the easiest to obtain, but you could also use Lena as well. Just use whichever one suits you the best. Just keep note that they do have different targeting ranges, so I do find Franca a little bit easier to use because it's a single line. And usually you'll probably want to have both your DPS in the same line. Whereas Lena is a diagonal buffer, so you have to put like units like this, buff, or I guess it would be like that way, right? Because you're targeting this guy first, and that can make it a little bit awkward because then you're not focusing down one lane. It's generally better to focus down one lane if you can. So that's why I like Franca, because it's all in one line, right? You don't need any more buffers beyond that, because while these guys have a lot of like damage reduction, armor, and all that, they're very low health, and because these two that I'm using here are both fixed damage units, they're not gonna have any issues killing any of these units with just an attack buff. And also they're easier to obtain. Like normal Skadi, everyone gets it for free. Franca, everyone gets it for free. Princess Skadi is the only one that's technically difficult to get, but only because she's limited, right? But once she does come back as a banner, she's very easy to obtain because she's only an SR rather than an SSR. So you just do a bunch of pulls and you should eventually get a copy of her. Then you use your books to level her up. But these are the easiest part of the team, like to solve. Then the hard part is going to be your 6 tanks to block off the attacks of the enemy, and you're basically protecting the DPS from the DPS on the opposing side. Now you're going to want a mix of different damage reduction types, so you want like an armor tank, a dodge tank. You don't have to have a resistance tank as well. In addition, like most people are going to have multiple armor tanks, because they're so easy to obtain. And then you're going to need something to cover for when armor tanks can't be used, right? For example, on this map, we have a unit here that does armor ignore, which is this heavy type unit, right? So obviously you can't tank this with an armor unit, and for that reason you're going to need either a dodge or a resistance tank, or even like just like a pure high HP tank to block it, right? So in that case you're going to use something like either a Tenka or a Mira. So Mira is resistance, Tenka is dodge, right? Now with the dodge ones, it's very important that you check their skills and skill level that you need to reach 100% damage reduction, because even though you might have 100% mobility, right? So you might have like 50% here plus an additional 50%, so they have 100%, right? This alone isn't enough. You need to have the damage reduction bonus, because the base amount of damage reduction that you're getting from dodging is actually 35%, which means you need this extra 65% from a skill, because you can't obtain this from like cores or anything like that. You have to get it through a skill. I think you might be able to get it from some buffing units, but I don't think they buff it enough to reach 100% mobility or damage reduction. Plus it also means that you need them to move early, right, and target the tank. It can make it a little bit tricky with positioning. So just having like a natural dodge tank like this is very helpful. Now if you don't have Tenka because she's a collab unit, that's fine. There are alternative options, so you can use like Suzuki is probably the easiest one to obtain. or you could use Kraz. Like both of them can be used, but they also both need to be high skilled. So but they both gain their 65% bonus damage reduction at rank 10, and Tenka is the easier one to build actually because she gains it at rank 9. But you only really need one of them, maybe two. As it just depends on how many anti-armors on the opposing side. But I like to have a bit of a mix just so that I can cover all my bases. So then I use Mira as my resistance tank. There might be other resistance tanks, but I just don't remember any off the top of my head. But I know Mira for sure does have it, but she does need to be also high skill rank. I think she needs rank 10, but I could be wrong. Maybe she can be a little bit lower. She is going to be my resistance tank here, right? Then the other way to tank stuff is using units that have a second life or like a damage block. So as an example, Farnese has a second life, right? And she's going to be one of the most used ones here, right? Because there's going to be a lot of units on the opposing side that have something that just one-shots your tank, right? And also they have fixed damage, right? And to cover that, you would want to run something like a Farnese, or you could also use like Ren. Even like she can be low ranked as well. She doesn't need to be high ranked. And also Momika, right? So Momika is like the most budget one. She has a damage block. So one instance of damage, she will ignore that. So very useful for tanking those high damage units. And then worst case scenario, if you don't have any, if you can't access any of this for whatever reason, you can also just throw in any of these like random level 1 units that you haven't built, because you don't need them to actually do anything in the fight. All you need them to do is eat an attack, and hopefully by the time you've eaten the attack, you have bought enough time for your other DPS units to actually kill off the rest of them, right? Or at least kill off the dangerous ones. And you're gonna have plenty of these. There's so many random drivers that are SR or R rating, and you can just throw them in to block an attack. Basically, they're just like sacrificial fodder, right? So that is the general way to approach approach a stage. You're gonna block off these units with your tanks. Use your DPS to whittle them down. You kill between 2 to 4 units at a time if you're running the 2 Skadis, because they have a 2-tile attack range on both of them. And then you're basically looking to outlast the opposing side. Now, once you have found a team that works for the floor, I suggest to immediately go into here and save your team and label it, Abyss, whatever number floor you're on. There's a character limit, and that's why I name it like this, like Abyss 3, Abyss 4, etc. Right? And then you can edit it if you need to. So you save that, right? Make sure you click the save button to save it, right? And then because by default it will be on load, so don't accidentally load like a different team. That way you can save the team and you don't have to redo it if you have to reset from the start, right? Now, one thing you're gonna probably face while progressing is you're gonna lose some units at some point. Now, the aim eventually is to clear the first 15 floors or so with no losses, right? Or at least as little as possible, preferably none. That way you can get to the harder parts, and then you use some more advanced tactics, which I'll go over a little bit later, to clear those. But in the early parts, you have to do some probably some trial and error, but it's generally doable to clear the first 15 floors without losing any units, right? Now, you're eventually going to make a mistake, or maybe there's something you missed. So rather than what you can do firstly is you can use the reset function just for the time being, right? In an actual run, you want to avoid doing this, but while you're progressing, it's fine to just use them so you can refresh your team and then keep going rather than resetting every single time you fail. Then you work your way up to the floor 15. And then what I would do is any stage where you clear it but you do lose your units, just make a note of that somewhere. To then when you're resetting and coming back to it, then you know which ones you have to work on to like rearrange your team again, and hopefully that whatever you've changed will fix the errors that you made, right, with your lineup, and clear it without losing any units. So that's the sort of the best way to utilize those resets early on. Then once you've like mapped out your first 15 floors, then you're gonna face much more difficult stages with like 14 enemies or something like that on this side. Now, if you're gonna use your main team, like whatever I have here, to try to tackle that every time, you're probably gonna lose like probably your whole team or maybe most of your team. And you only have 3 resets to work with, right? I mean, I guess you could potentially clear up to like 17 or 18 without deaths, but realistically, I think people will reach like around 15, and that's like when they'll start losing units, and like it'd be harder to come like to get around. Now, what you can do though is still make use of these other units that you have that are leveled up, but not necessarily built. So you would keep your cores on your 2 Skadi so you don't have to move them around, but then use like another couple of sets to put on other units here, and then swap them around as you need to, because you can always exit back and it will save your progress, right? You don't have to do this all in one sitting. So you go back out, equip some cores on some other DPS units that you haven't that hasn't died yet, throw them in, and then you're basically trying to weaken the opposing side as much as possible, so that by the time you're ready to use your main team again, the opposing side will only be at like half strength. Because if you kill some units on this side, but then you lose, right? Whatever you've killed will remain dead for the next round. So that's basically how I approach the harder stages of the Moon Abyss, is just like weakening them as much as possible, and then throw in my main team once I'm happy with how much I've like weakened them by, and hopefully by then I can tank through whatever's remaining. Hopefully I've killed off all, like the really dangerous units like the snakes and the dolphins, like that sort of thing. And then your main team will hopefully stay intact for at least like a couple of floors, right? Then only use the reset when you really have to, right? You can utilize as many units that you have, at least that you can afford to have built. You can just throw in like Alvida, Morgan, or whatever to try to like even though they won't necessarily kill the whole map like they normally would, they'll hopefully at least kill some units with like once you fully buff them up with like crit and all your crits and all that. So at that point you'll run things like Tina or whatever to fully buff those units up. And hopefully they can at least kill a few units, and then then you use your actual team to mop them up, right? Finish them off. So that's a general approach to getting to 20, and I hope that covers pretty much like pretty much everything that you should need to know about achieving that, right? So yeah, beyond that, it's just a lot of practice to get through it. As I said, a lot of trial and error to like work out the teams for the first bunch of floors, and then usually the last 5 floors I can usually just wing it with whatever I have to finish it off. So anyway, I think that covers it. I think I've rambled on enough about that. Now, if there's anything I might have missed that you're unsure of, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll try to answer you as soon as I can. So I'll leave it there. Thanks guys for watching, and I hope that this is helpful. Good luck with Moon Abyss if you're trying to do T99. Alright, so I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.